recording the session. All right, here we go.
Okay, everybody. Glad you're here to join us. We are in the Secretary's meeting at the NCHA Convention in Fort Worth. Basically, what we're going to do today is just go through the Faster Cut, the cloud, and it's going to be kind of basic, but we'll get into some stuff. So as we move through some stuff, I'll stop and ask for questions, and if you have any, write them down, and then we'll try to cover them all at one time. So in order to get onto the cloud, Marilyn's got to set you up with your database. Can you all hear me okay? I guess so.
Yep, we can hear you. I can hear you.
Yes.
Thanks. Okay. So you'll have to get onto Firefox, which is a server-oriented website, and that's why we're on that one. That's the Faster Cut address up there. When Marilyn gives you your database, she will give you that Faster Cut deal too, and your email, and all you use is your email address and your password, and your Faster Cut code is the one that you've had the whole time, like Pacific Coast is 1009. Okay, and then when it says that we're going to use the Hub DB, we always want to make sure that box is checked, because if you have to dig into any information out of NCHA, it's going to come out of Hub. And click submit, and it takes a minute. Okay, when we first get on, we're going to go to show applications, and on our show applications, we have 4 choices right now. You have a new weekend show, a challenger app, the new LAE show app, the new major LE show app, and the affiliate show setup. So if you're running different affiliates and you're keeping track of all of those, when you go onto that affiliate show setup, it will show you all the shows that are associated with your affiliate, and you'll be able to set up these guys right here. There is a video on the help side on how to set up the affiliate, because you'll notice that I haven't done that. The 2 big things that you'll need to know on the major LAE show app versus the new LAE show app. The LAE show app itself is basically for the weekend. That's for anything under $10,000, because that one automatically pulls out your 8%, whereas your major LE show app is going to be for anything over 10,000 up to however much you add, and it will figure out whether, if you're over 100,000, it'll only take out the 2%, and if you're in between, it's going to take out the 3.5%. But so anything that's over 10,000 is going to be considered a major LAE in this situation. Okay. So when we go to the new weekend show apps, and which we were just discussing at this show, we're probably going to change this a little bit to make it easier. But right now, these show apps look exactly like the ones that we've been filling out this whole time. Okay. And it's super simple to fill them out. I mean, go to your calendar, go to your through date, which is 10th through 10th. Oops. What is that one? Oops, sorry. When you're doing these, guys, use your edits that NCHA has sent you, so that you make sure you get your dates exactly the same as what's on there, and try to get your name as close as possible, because that's where when we get ready to set it up, and it's going to look through NCHA, it's going to look through the date, and it's going to look through the name of your show and the producer of your show. You can print your application off from this. And hopefully one day we're going to be able to just send it straight on. You don't send yours to Cheryl left. Oh, you do send it straight from here?
I do a PDF and just attach it as an email.
Okay.
And then when you get ready to make your show, if you've already got your edit back.
It'll recognize your show as, right. Okay.
So instead of choosing a printer, on your list of printers, choose PDF.
And you'll notice some of this stuff, it automatically filled in because I've already had a show app with this address and stuff on it. It automatically filled in. The one thing we're using now is we're using our NCHA number instead of our old secretary number. If you don't know it, you can click on the spyglass, go to the member deal, click on your name, X out, and there I got my number. Okay, and you got to have your videographer, otherwise it won't go through. Same thing, you can just look them up that way and you got him in there. This is one of the really cool things that the new program does is, will there be a video fee? Yes, there will, and it's going to be $6. And will there be an office fee? Yes, there will, and my office fee is $30. And then what other fees is there going to be? There's going to be a PCCAJ fee, and that one's $7. Can't remember. I think that's it. The what?
National championship.
Okay. World finals fee is $2. Okay. So any fees that you want to have loaded that you put in here right now, like my video fee, my office fee, these extra fees, you put them in right up here. When I get down here to the bottom, let's see, let's not make sure we get our Senior World Tour and health
You're
spaces.
filling out for a LAE show. Right?
Nope, I'm doing this for a weekend right now.
Can you get me a couple of those cookies in just a minute?
So if it automatically generate itself.
Not if it's gonna charge
Yeah.
more.
So
I mean, if you want.
as you've added all your charges in and then you get ready to go down to your regular class, the little box right here, if you check that box, this is my office fee and my video charge, and then my other charges are all in there. So anytime I check my box, those fees are going to be in there. And because I only have 3 classes, I'm just going to do this right now. 5, and done. No, it won't have, and then and a 50,000 limit. And that's going to be my show. And then I'm going to go just keep scrolling down here until we hit that Senior World Tour. And we're going to do that one. Oops. And thing. Same thing. Okay, so my application's done. And we only have those 3 classes. If I have additional classes, I can fill them in here at the bottom.
I don't
And
know.
you can, as soon as you click that box, it's going to fill in your office charge and your extra charges. If you're not going to charge those, zero it out, change it. You can change anything you want to right there. If you decide you're not going to have it, get rid of it. Scroll down to the bottom and save it. Okay. So for right now, if you look up here, it says this show has not been approved by NCHA. Now that I saved it and I get out of here, it's going to start looking for that show. Oops. And it already approved it. It already went to the Hub database. It found it. It approved it. So if I go back in here right now, it's telling me that my show numbers are 8291 and 8294. Boom, my show's there. Okay. It was that fast. So all it did once I saved it to the cloud hooked up to Hub, and it said, I'm looking for a show by this producer on this date. And because my dates are exact, because my producer was in, boom, it attached the numbers and we're ready to go. My dates, my show dates are exactly the same.
She had already filled this out and sent it in. So NCHA already had it.
Okay, so I'm just setting this up for next week. Now, Linda's not texting. So once my numbers come up for my show, all I got to do is go to create a show from this application. And when I do that, it asks me if those are the right numbers, and yes, continue, and boom, my show is now going to be under the show tab. So does anybody have any questions as far as setting up a show?
But it only assigns those show numbers if you've already sent in the show applications previously and had it approved. Is that right?
Correct. If I'm using it to send into NCHA to get a show, then we're going to be waiting on Linda to assign it a number, and then as soon as she assigns it a number, it'll come back and be okay.
Right.
So since this one is already approved, you know, it goes on next week, and I just hadn't put it in. It's ready.
Right. So what you're actually showing us is not having to apply for the show.
Somebody needs to mute. Sorry, I say one more time.
So what you just showed us is actually how to set up the show, not how to apply for the show.
You can do it both ways. Cheryl was just saying she uses it this way to apply to the show.
Right.
Once you get your deal, you save it, you print it, right? Right. Okay. So
it's that part is really no different than what we did before.
exactly. So there is no difference aside from you have to fill it out a second time in order to get it into your database.
Right.
And then
So it's basically the same thing we were doing before.
correct. We're just doing it in the cloud.
Yeah.
So then when we go to the shows tab, my show's right here. And when I open it up, it's going to be, there it is. So before we get into that, if you go over to the users tab, and depending on who you want to let into this, if you put somebody out in the practice pen and they have internet access, Wi-Fi, and they put it on an iPad or a laptop or something like that, you can have your practice pen person.
I can't hear
Yeah.
him.
Okay, if she can't hear, tell her to go down into the right hand bottom corner and see if the little volume thing down there is on mute. Do you want to call Lance and see if he can talk her through it? Because I'm not sure. Maybe it's something on Zoom that she needs to. Did she call in? You know what? She can call in to. She can call in to 408-638. Oh, really? 0768. Or we'll have Lance talk to her. Okay. Did you get?
Sometimes on these web things, you gotta know the web part of it.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. I'm not sure. Okay, so when you go to your users, if you have someone out in the practice pen, if you have someone in the office that's helping you, and maybe you don't want them to have all of the controls that you have. So Mindy is my practice pen girl, and I set her up, but she's only able to add settlement charges. She can't, once she pulls up the show, that's the only window that she can get into. She can't go into my drawers. She can't go into anything else. I can limit everything that she does. I can limit to where she can look at the checkbook, she can view payment history, and then I can even go down to the bottom right here and say what shows she can get into. So I only want her on this one show. That's the only show she can get into, the only one she can make changes to.
You just put her in, you don't have to get that authorized.
No, I can add right here a new user. I can put anybody in there that I want to. So I can put Kim in there, and I can call Kim and say, hey, I got a problem right now. I can put her in as an administrator. She can get onto my database, look what's going on, and help me out or whatever. We do use we use this out in the practice pen. We use it out in the stalls because let me tell you, ladies, once you get this going, and you don't have to put any more practice pins or flags in because it's going in as they're doing it out in the arena. It is the coolest thing ever. And it's instantaneous because when somebody comes to check out and you've got everybody in there already,
If you let,
I only allow her to go into add settlement, and that way, actually, if you look at, so like Rhonda checks people out and stuff, but I don't give her access to the classes, to draw a class, score a class, or anything like that. So that way you have a lot of control over who can do what inside your database. And if,
Like our participant person, and somebody, she can't even do like she's like, okay, you and so and so, they're not in the database.
yeah, which that is one thing you really don't, unless your practicing person's really savvy, you don't want them adding members because they may not know how to look them up, so they just don't know they're there. The thing is this is a lot like our old system, where when you start adding entries, they start appearing into your settlement, and they don't appear into your settlement until you start adding entries. Okay? So that's a totally cool part. And the preferences button right up here, if you go on to here, you can tell it that you want to see all your shows from last year, list all your shows that you've ever done, or if you've got a bunch of them, just do the ones for the last 6 months. That way your database isn't like overpowering when you first look at it. And again, list all shows. Points should be accumulated for all contestants, yes or no. We'll go into the class nicknames here in a little bit, but you can go in there and click yes. It's a handy thing to have. You're at the bottom of your settlement sheets where it says remit to and who you want everything to go to. This is where you can change it. So if you don't want your address or your phone number on there and you want it sent to your affiliate secretary or you want it sent to someone else, change it right there. And then their phone number's on the bottom of every settlement sheet and not yours. So that made it really easy to change. Okay. And so, the show app. So if we go back into our show, and this, and you guys were asking about the Senior World Tour, and the nicest thing about this is you click on it, you go into detail. Your detail window is a lot more friendly than it was in the old one, okay? You can change your added money, you can change your entry fee. The NCHA deduction is not going to change. You can change your cattle charge, office charge, video. You can change all that right there, all the way during the class, all the way during the show until you close this class. You can change anything in the detail window.
so you draw.
Even after you draw, you can change it. Yes.
What I did is I did when I had 2 judges at the show, and I was freaking out in there. And so when I went to the scores in, I only had spots for 1 judge. And then there,
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. So yeah, that's a nice thing about the new system that we were just commenting on was once you add your judge here, which I can't remember who our judge is going to be. You can add 1 judge, you can add 2 judges, you can add 3 judges, whereas the old system was pretty unforgiving. If you forgot to add your second judge, you were kind of screwed. You had to start all over. Since this is the Senior World Tour, if you drop this box down, you can hook it on to any class that you want to. It is a little dumb and disconnected, so make sure you hook it onto the right class because we have hooked it onto the wrong class before. So I'm going to hook my Senior World Open onto my open class. And when I go back over here, now it's hooked together. So any horse I put in the open, I can add it to the Senior World Tour. Let's see, if we sign up. Okay.
I have problems with that though. If you ask somebody, if you've done your draw and someone says, oh yeah, I forgot I want to go on the Senior World Tour, and so you try to go, and I can't remember. Exactly.
Okay, so you would add your Senior World Tour right there, and now it's just added him to both classes. And when you sign him up, so now when I go back in here, he's in the open, and then if I went into the Senior World Tour by himself, he's in the Senior World Tour too. So he's in both of those. The drawback to this is what you were just saying. If after your class is already set and you're done, and Tim comes over and says, I want it in the Senior Tour before the class starts, you have to take him out of class and put him back in. There's kind of no way around it yet. You can't just
take him out of the open.
You got to take him out of the open and then add him back in as into both classes. Okay. The only other way you can do it is when your class is over, you can disconnect them again and then score them separately. And
I just thought it was easier not to.
it is.
It's just that, like, my eyes were bugging out of my head by the end.
So, and it'll start automatically doing everything. Like I said, you just add your judges right here. You type in your number.
So if you forget to put your, it's not forget, but
Yeah.
besides after the fact, can you still go to the detail page?
Yes.
And do the classroom that's in a class?
Okay, so if I forget to connect them, the question was, is if I forget to connect them and then I already make entries into it, can I reconnect them? And yes, I can.
Even after you draw?
Not after you draw. Once you draw, it's closed. Once you draw, the door's closed. If both classes are open and you want to hook them together afterwards, you can. If you have a situation where you have a horse rider owner and then the same horse rider with a different owner because you fat fingered it, it's going to throw a deal up there. It'll throw that horse into the class twice and it'll have a big red flag up there and it'll tell you there's something wrong with it. So you have a chance to go in and fix your owner, and as soon as everything matches up exactly the same, it counts him as one horse again. If it doesn't match up as exactly the same, it counts him as two different horses. That'll work. Anybody have any questions on that, or did we totally confuse it?
I used the cloud program for the first time for our first show in March, and thankfully pretty much figured it out as I went along. It was friendly enough to do that. However, during the day on Saturday, it suddenly bogged down like tremendously. And I checked 2 different computers, 2 different Wi-Fi, like my personal hotspot, the building Wi-Fi, all of that, and it was still the same. So I knew that it wasn't on my end. And it was taking up to 3 minutes for each entry to post in a class. So it took me about 25 minutes to enter one class. And I called Marilyn and she put in a trouble ticket or whatever. That went on all day Saturday. And then a good part of the day Sunday. And all she could tell me was that apparently there was a problem with the cloud. Do you have anything else to offer for that, or?
How long ago did that show take place?
End of March.
This year? Just last week, or 2 weeks, or a month ago?
Yes, a month ago.
Okay. They've been working on the 2 months ago, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I don't know what today is, so forgive me.
That's okay. Well, I only asked that because she's been working on a lot of the little hardware problems and stuff like that, and those are getting quicker and faster and disappearing to where we don't see them as much. We just had a discussion earlier before you guys got on the line about Wi-Fi and about how much it gets bogged down depending on if you have a personal hotspot or how many people are on it.
Right.
That would be my biggest thing is
It was
if
a
you're
very,
hot.
it was a very quiet weekend as far as NCHA. There were there were very few shows that weekend. And so the cloud should not have, she said, the cloud should not have been overloaded. And there were very few people on the Wi-Fi or whatever. And like I said, I tried everything I could do to alleviate the problem on my end. But it almost shut us down more than once. And then Sunday when we were collecting, it would do the same thing. It would not process the information that was put in. It would just hang up. And I would have to shut down the entire program before I could process the next stuff and open it back up.
Yeah, I've not run into that. The worst time I have is allowing people onto my hotspot. If you're on Wi-Fi, public Wi-Fi, depending on if somebody's watching videos, pulling from the webcast, looking at stuff, public Wi-Fi just pulls down really fast. And as I say, public Wi-Fi is going to be your building Wi-Fi, is going to be anything that you're on that you can't control.
Right. They actually let me use their building Wi-Fi, not the public, not the guest, but the secure Wi-Fi at their building. So there weren't that many people on it. Couldn't have been. So that's why I'm saying, and that's when I talked to Marilyn, I was in a panic because I couldn't get anything processed. And that's what I was wondering if we had any more insight on what happened with all of that, or if it was going to be better or what.
I'll ask her about it. This is kind of a weird problem that we haven't had before. How old is your computer?
2 years. And I tried it.
I've had that same problem.
I tried it on the brand new iPad that I've had for 3 months, and I tried it on that has nothing on it. I tried it on the laptop that I had. Again, I tried it on personal hotspot. I tried it on the building secure Wi-Fi, and I explained all of that to Marilyn. I sent in an email about all of that after it happened, just so maybe we could address it, because like I said, it was pretty scary, just because I was dead in the water there for a while.
And you're on the Firefox browser, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And I hate to even say this out loud, but how much did you pay for your computer?
It's about a $750 laptop.
Okay. Do you know how much memory it has?
I could look it up. I don't remember. But again, I tried it on my brand new iPad as well, and it was the same thing.
Yeah, iPad to run it isn't going to work. I mean, iPad to do practice pen and stuff would work about as good as, or if Cheryl's shaking her head no. I know at one time when I used a laptop that had most of the memory used up on it,
right?
The less memory you have available, the slower your laptop's going to get.
Right. Well, Marilyn told me this was on their end. I mean, she told me herself that I had done everything that I could do to show that it was not on my end. So that's what I'm trying to figure out. Okay.
I will check into that and find out. We'll get an answer for you. And as I told these guys in here, I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions today. I'm just kind of a go-between right now because Marilyn couldn't make it. So any questions that you guys have, we're going to write them down and we're going to see about what kind of answers we can get. And then on that email and stuff that I sent you guys, will just be more email threads where we can answer those questions, hopefully.
Well, and I'm not fussing, or I just wanted to make sure everything was, that we were aware of everything. So it, I mean, we can deal with it, something. But that's why I asked her so many questions to see if there was anything else I could do on my end,
Okay.
I've not had that problem.
Okay, we'll find out if there was anything that she found out on that problem or not. That's,
Right. She said they had a few things like that, but not as severe as mine.
okay, because the only fall down that I've had myself was when too many people got on the Wi-Fi, or it just bogged down to where I couldn't use it, and that's
Right.
usually too many people on the
She
Wi-Fi.
said she had put in a trouble ticket and said they were having some hardware issues with the cloud, that apparently the cloud was not cooperating. And they were working on that. But that's all she could tell me.
That's really terrifying when you think about hardware up in the cloud, huh?
Well, I mean, whatever on their end, however they manage the cloud, whatever they're doing, however they process all of that.
Exactly, and that was one thing about the Firefox browser is it is linked to personal servers and stuff like that. So there are going to be problems that basically why we've kind of been the test bunnies here for this last year,
Right.
and getting all these bugs worked out and making it so that we can always run our show.
Right. Well, it was scary
so-
because my license had run out on my older version, so I couldn't go back to that, so I was having no crap day.
Okay. And actually, if your license ever runs out again like that, go down to the bottom right-hand corner of your machine and your date and time, and set your date back for about 3 months, and you'll have your database back up again.
That's the best thing I've learned yet. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
So,
you.
and then as we move on, another thing that she put on here now that you can keep track of, you don't have to, you can keep track of your fresh cattle. And at the end, when we do our summary reports, it will tell you how many fresh cattle you use. I know a lot of people use just an Excel spreadsheet, but you can do it off of this one too. And then as you get horses added in here, it'll tell you how many places it's going to pay and how much it's, just like the old program. So that's our weekend show. Then there we go. Okay, and we reviewed the detail window. Your class representatives are going to be right there. Your judges are going to be right there. If I put Freddie in there, then I have one judge. If I add an additional judge, I don't know who I'm going to use. Okay, we'll use Chip. And so I have the choice if I can either use. Oops, I think I got to get out of it now that I put a new one in. Sorry. I can use either or, oops, because I'm hooked to the class. Because I'm hooked to the other class, I got to go in the main class and tell it which judge I want to use. If I want to use one judge, he shows up there. If I want to use two judges, he shows up there. If I want to use 3, 4, 5, or at any time I only want to use one. So it's possible you can run your show and you can have one judge in one class, 2 in another, 3 in another, and not have to use 3 all the way through and zero those classes out. Okay. Yep, you can just put one judge in there and go to town. So that's our weekend show, and that's how you hook up your classes in the weekend. Once we score this, say we do our draw and then we score it, these scores automatically come into the Senior World Tour, but you have to close each class out. We'll close the open out, and then you turn around and go into the World Tour and close it out, and it's done, and it's billed, and you can pay it out, and you don't have to do it a week later and send everybody a bunch of tiny checks.
I can do it.
You can do it later if you want to, but one of the nice things is when I entered this horse in this class, it automatically went over to my settlement, and Whereas before you had to click on the deal to bring up the ones that hadn't shown yet. So when I go over to my settle up side, you guys are gonna love this. If you haven't seen it before, this is our settlement spot. And Tammy Valley is the horse that I just entered. And here it is, the open fees are charged and the World Tour fees are charged. Okay, so they're in there as soon as you put him in the class. If I take him out of the class, they disappear. If I wanted to bill out Maximum Cat, I'm going Maximum Cat, who's this guy owned by? And it's gonna tell me that it's owned by Ron and Tamara, and Tostin is the one that wrote it. And so you have the option of looking up your settlements, or looking up your settlements under horses as well. I'm going to pick on Tim here for a minute. When we want to charge things out, you go to this first little yellow clicker thing here. And when you click on that, this is the part that's cool. Okay, so I entered all of these charges myself. And when you first get your database, you have very minimal things in here. You can put in here anything that you want to put in here. I put in my advancement fee for whatever reason. If you don't want that in there, or you get too much stuff in there, just delete it. And then when you refresh it, it'll be gone. So you can put it in for one show, you can delete it, refresh it, it's gone for the next one. Or like my practice pin is, for the aged events, I just do it by date so that I know what date that horse is working. So if we're gonna let Mr. Smith practice pin one day, and then we wanna make sure that we got his stall, and we wanna make sure that we build him for 6 shavings. And by the way, he is going to sponsor the taco party. Okay, so we can put all that stuff on there. You can put anything on there. These headings are how it's going to show in the balance sheet when we're done. So,
How do you make new law?
how do you make that? There's a brand new one right here at the bottom, and as soon as
Copy it at the top.
right, as soon as I type in this one, it's going to give me an extra blank one that has no more, that has nothing that I have numerous boxes, whatever I want to put in there. Yeah. Okay. So I have all these things that I just entered at one time, and when I hit charge, boom, that's all I got to do. I don't have to enter each one of them. And I go back onto a settlement sheet and they're all right there. Okay. And the other nice thing is over here under the notes button, you can put in notes on anything that you want to. So, and my practice pin gal does this, is she'll bring it up and it says that, and you know, he rode Fluffy, and we save it. And that way, on a particularly large event, when the owner comes back and says, hey, my horse didn't practice that day, you can go, well, the practice pin lady said it was Fluffy, or your guy rode 2 times or something like that. Any notes you want to put on that side, you can put in there in order to help make your checkout easier. Okay?
Did the notes show up?
Aha. So when we go to look at it on this right-hand side, we find out that that practice pin was for Fluffy. And the nice thing is you know how it used to just say practice pin and it'd say 150 maybe because there was 3 of them? Over here it says 1 practice pin at $50. And if you had entered 2 or 3 of them, it'd say 3 at $50. So that it's just a lot easier to figure out for people when they go to settle. Okay, and on my settlement sheet, then you hit the little arrows right here. You can print it, you can download it, you can turn it upside down, you can do whatever you want to do with it. And then when you print it, you can send it to a printer, you can PDF it, send it to your desktop, and then you can email it to people. You can do whatever you want to do. It made it really handy.
There's no way to attach the billing to this, because you just put a charger. Bring it up to the trainer and saying, but this is a particular weekend show. Okay, well, where are those charges? There's no way to attach a name to these practice.
The question was, is can you attach the name of Tim Smith to that practice pin? The only way you can do that would be under the notes column. I mean, you're gonna bill it under as you, you have a chance up here is you can charge it to Tim Smith or you can charge it to Tammy Valley. It does not show unless you put it in the notes over there that Tim rode that horse. I understand what you're saying. You have some trainers now that, or some customers that have different trainers. And if your practice pen person is really sharp, they can put Tim Smith rode that horse. Or, you know, Betty rode this horse or somebody rode that horse. And you can put all those notes in the column in order to make it easier for you. But that to me on the settlement part of it was just, it's so nice. If you have a credit that you have to give, you can do a negative. So yeah, when I charged advancement fees and I shouldn't have and I couldn't get them back, I just put a credit over on that side.
Do a -1 with a positive amount.
You can do it either way. Yeah, either way. A minus on either side is going to end up a minus. 2 minuses will end up a positive.
Can you pre-designate who's gonna pay for a class?
Pre-designate who's going to pay for a class.
Oh, I think come up and they enter so-and-so on so-and-so's course and the two, you know, don't forget who's paying for the class. First guy that comes up, you don't remember to take that horse and charge out and they end up paying for it.
Yeah, that's still on you. The question was, can you pre-designate who's going to pay for a class? Best you can do is kind of like the old system is you're going to say that he's not going to pay for that one and just deselect it. And then
Yeah,
you got to remember
they're
that.
telling me 3 days ahead of time, you know.
I'm getting a little callous now and I'm figuring a lot of this stuff is on them.
I just wondered if there's. I have put in the charge. I have a charge that says NCHA membership needed with a 0, and then it shows right there. You could put a charge saying,
You can click on, yeah.
pay for the 2,000, and then mark it as a 1 with a 0 amount, and it will show when it's full.
Okay.
I
So-
did that before.
And then it's just going to show up there, say we're going to put a 0 amount on that, and then we'll put a 1 so that it shows up on his account. Charge it. X out of there, and then you have that note that Tim's paying for the open classes, but it's still going to be hard to see. But if you want to put something like that on there, then you can look at it and just, yeah. And
Kathy, do you have, I found one where you had an extra charge of the, put in a trainer who's riding the horse,
mhm.
and then after the show was all settled, I had the outstanding, so then the owner came and paid his bill, paid that $225 or whatever. And then, yes, because it was like you got double charged. It was actually paid for, but it still showed outstanding trainer, you know, the owner. I don't know what I did or how that was, but it was like because I didn't pull up both of them when they settled, I guess.
The question
So
is,
the trainer is coming up and paying for the class for his owner,
right?
and I put in this $225 to get that. I put in, and so the trainer paid, but I didn't pull up John Henry, the owner's name, when this came to pay. And then after he's left, and I'm like, what? And it was like, it was,
It sounds like she charged it to the rider, or, and then, and the owner paid out, but it didn't associate it with the rider because
he was on there. It was just weird. It was very
it depends, I mean, as you look at the top of this thing, kind of ask me who I want to charge it to, and it just defaults it to Tim Smith, and he's the trainer, so it's not going to show up when I pull up. That's a good one. Okay, so If I just pull up Tammy by herself, those charges didn't show up because I charged half to Tim. So you gotta, you can click both those names. If I wanna do Tim and Tammy together, if I try to do it like our old system, it's just gonna keep disappearing. If you hit the control button, then you can click on whatever kind of names you wanna add on to it, okay?
And that, just when you screw it up at the very top there, you have the two names.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah, you gotta be careful who that's clicked under when you add it. I've done that before too, is I go to add it to someone's account. Unfortunately, it happens to be sitting on the trainer's name, and then you close the owner out, and then at the end of the show, you got these trainers left over.
But then I went back in, because that is what's cool, is you can go back in, they paid for that number, because then I went back in and went, I'm sure that got paid, and went in and looked, and it was paid, but it's still showing somehow it's been, I don't know.
Okay, so here's the other cool part is the payment side of it.
They get ready to check out and you go, dang it, I know I put that in there.
And you put it in again.
And you could put it in again.
Yeah.
Because now you've got it on the owner and now you got it sitting down there on the trainer too.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool.
You know, it's on my copy or something.
So
Yeah.
when we look at our payments window, which is right next to the settlement, this is what everybody's been asking for and craving for a long time. You can click on a name from the whole year or whatever, and this is, you click on, say this is 8/4/2018, I wanted to find the settlement sheet so I could send it back to her, and there it is. I can either reopen it and change things, or I can just reprint the settlement sheet from right there. And again, if you go up here, you can print it in paper form, you can print it onto a PDF and then just attach it to their email and email it to them. But it shows you that they paid it by card, or and let's see, Dustin, oops, might have closed that. That one paid with check number 2000. This one paid with 2211 by the card. And then this one got a check from us for $46, and that was on check 1234, which I highly doubt.
So what's the number up behind his name?
The number up behind his name.
NCHA number.
The 1418?
No,
No,
The show number. The show number.
show
it's
number.
the show number. There you go. It's the show that he was in.
I think I checked that.
No, that can't be right, because there's a whole bunch of numbers. Okay, Cheryl says she thinks it's a placeholder in the database. Not sure.
Okay, something that I want to point out a mistake I've made that makes it hard when you go back here.
I bet I did it.
On the settlement, whenever you're taking in money and paying out money, I have forgotten to put because I printed out the settlement sheet before I got down to the bottom and put the check number that I paid them, and then I can't find where I paid them.
Oh, it takes it out immediately.
And so the other thing is one of my helpers would click that I don't want to proceed with this settlement, and it took it out instead of, because you have to print a settlement sheet even though you're just writing, or tell it to print a settlement sheet even though you're writing just a winnings check.
Okay, so that's come up a couple of places. I mean, this is the payments deal that makes it easy to find your settlement sheet. When you're settling stuff out, and we're gonna settle Tim and Tammy out here. When you click the settlement sheet, it actually asks you if you're gonna pay cash, or you're gonna pay check, or you're gonna pay by card. And so if he's only gonna pay say he's gonna pay $100 by cash, just uncheck. And then once you recheck it, it figures it out for you. And then you can put whatever check you want in there. you'll notice over here, there's no X to get out of this window. So you have to print the settlement sheet before the X shows up. And the same thing, once we have a check that they're due a check back, we have to print or at least open the window in order for it to close it out. That's one of the things that Marilyn said, it's dumb and disconnected. Trying to think who's got a.
I find there's so much clicking, like 3 times to get a settlement, 2 times to get back to the next guy.
It's not as automatic as it was, but it gives you a chance to look at it before you do anything with it. And
Change stuff.
yeah, you don't have to make as many mistakes. But when you do have that window that you have a settlement sheet and a check to print, you have to at least open both windows so that the system knows that you're done with that guy. Otherwise, it's going to leave him hanging out there, and it doesn't understand that he's done.
So like she mentioned, so if you do a settlement, and you know, you're all worried about getting your fees,
Mm-hmm.
forget to look that they won some money, and like you say, so then you settle, and now this guy forgot that he should have got some money. When I was first doing the show, and that money was never left.
You go back into your payments, and you can open him up that way.
Yeah, no, you can, but unless they notice, so when you go to close, it kind of says there's nothing left owing and nothing left to pay, even though that $400 is sitting there with no check assigned to it. And then they come and they say, oh, I think I won, whatever, $400, and you're like, my system says I'm clean,
Right.
so I'm done, and then you go in and look, and you see that that's sitting there, with nothing, and you can open it and see it out, but it's kind of scary the first few times, because you're not used to that. I don't know how to explain it, but anyway. I know how to find it.
Take it out, but it didn't, because you didn't put a check number, or you
Yeah.
didn't run the check through, but it's closing.
Yeah, I do, because I have to produce.
Yeah, you have to go back in, when it does it, and it's gone, just go into payments and reopen it.
Yeah.
And it's right back there again, so then you can reprint
But
it.
it is scary when you don't.
Well, every now and again, if you're too fast and you blow through it like that, it's going to close it out. So again, you go back into payments, open it back up, and then just slow down and reprint it.
My advice is, if anybody's helping you that's not using this all the time, don't let them click that, I don't want to proceed with it.
Actually, what Kim's saying, that's going to happen the more people you get on your database. And the one thing that you don't, as long as I'm sitting here and I am in Ron and Tamara's account, anybody else that comes in here and does something, the computer's going to get confused, because I have my window open, and if somebody's trying to sneak in the back window and do something, it might not be happy. So when you're not doing something, get out of a class, get out of a settlement, get out of a payment. If you're going to get up and walk away, get up and walk away. Because when I'm going to close somebody out, it's going to take me 30 seconds to a minute to finish processing him. But if I have my window open, somebody else goes into his class and tries to do something different, they're going to stumble things up. So whoever is helping you, make sure that they do not set in a class. They do not set in someone's account. They get in, they get out. They get in, they get out. That is the bad thing about having multiple users, is your multiple users can crash your system if they all try to get in the same person or in the same little vestibule and do the same thing. Again, a computer has to go through its certain steps. It has to open a door, close the door, open a door, close the door. And if it opens the door and too many people try to open the door without closing it, it's going to get confused. And usually when that happens, it'll do what Kim was talking about, where it just disappears. And you're like, oh my God, where'd it go? So you go back into your payment side, and it's generally right there. And and then you'll see that it closed it out without a number on it or anything like that. Opening back up and you're in business again. So there's nothing terrible that really happened. It just, yeah, it's a little scary. It's a little.
Make sure you have the X out when you're done. Not
Okay. Does anybody have any questions? So far, you guys are all quiet on the other end. Okay. Let's see. So when you're going to sign up or put somebody into a class, it's kind of the same way as you go to the sign up, and then you have you're not going to get the whole line of horses that you did, but if you type in part of a name, it's going to give you all the horses that have that in there. You don't have your great big list that you fall down to. We go to a wild time, and it's going to associate, if you've ever done anything in here, it's going to associate the last owner with that horse. And you can go over here to Janelle, and then everybody with Langston, and his name's going to come up. Any classes that are hooked to it, and then you just sign them up. Okay. So if I go to look for a horse and he's not there, this bar right down here, this is the bar to hub. This is the bar that we get to go into, and now we can look inside the NCHA database. Okay, first of all, I need to, let's see, reset this guy here. This one, if we say, I want to know all the horses that Jessica Carden owns, I can type in an owner, click on that owner. She's already in my database. I click on the horses, and it's going to tell me that this is the only horse that she owns that's associated with NCHA. Okay? If I check on me, I'm going to find out I got a lot of dead horses that I ought to take out of here. But these are all the horses that I have that are associated with NCHA in my name. Okay? So it's kind of a cool way to be able to go in and look up if you have, this is another one that would be terrible, would be John Ward. Bobby, JK.
Oh, interesting.
There he is. Click on horses, and these are the horses that he has associated with NCHA. Okay. If I wanted to add that horse to my database, it's telling me that this horse is already in my database. And if I check on that horse and it's not in my database, here's where I can add it. Oh, it's a 1979. It's probably dead too. But we're going to add old Taffy Remedy to the database. This is what NCHA has that we're able to look at, and it says that it's already in my database. And then the compare button, I can bring that up. Whoopsie. Could have brought that up, and it didn't like it.
I think it's
Probably. Let's see. Go back to Jessica, and we want to compare. Okay, so this is what it's going to tell me. This is what is in my database right now, and this is what NCHA shows in their database right now. So it's real easy for me to go ahead and update my database to match NCHA's.
when did you just hit change?
Nothing happens until you put it in there.
Unless you change.
Hey, can
Unless
I
you change. Yes,
add something that I discovered?
yes.
I had a girl in our database that she's entered with two last names, her maiden name and her married name, Megan Skinner Pine. Okay, so I knew she was in our database, and it kept telling me she wasn't. So when I did the compare, you notice how it has the two lines where you can enter the first name and the last name? Well, on the NCHA database, it had Megan on one line and Skinner Pine on the second line. And mine, I had Megan Skinner and Pine on the last line. And because, even though they were spelled exactly the same, capitalized the same, because they were spaced differently on those two lines, it did not recognize it, which means I have to go back and change a lot of stuff in my database. But it was spelled exactly the same, capitalized the same, everything. But because it was not put on the exact same lines, then it did not recognize it.
So your computer's only going to read each line, and exactly that. You've got the first name, a middle initial, and the last name. And I'm not sure who worked at NCHA for a very short period of time, but you'll find an ampersand over here and all kinds of weird stuff where they had entered everything on that last name line, and there was nothing on the first name. I don't know who did that, but every now and again.
I wish there was no separation of lines, is what I'm saying, I guess, because in the old database, I did not have that problem so much. But I'm just, for anyone else that comes up on that, it was just, you know, in whatever my existing database, if you have two last names, well then, unless you know exactly how to enter it, I mean, some people are going to put it as a middle name, some people as a, you know, on the first line, second line, whatever. And if they don't match exactly, it won't recognize it. So I've got to go back through my database now and make sure everything matches with the hub, I guess.
Correct.
Just because it's on a different line.
Yeah, and the computer's only going to look at one line at a time, and that comes back to, it opens the door, it closes the door, it opens the door to the middle initial, it closes that door, it goes to the next one. So if you just have one line, if you just had one line, it would be worse, because then the entire thing would have to match exactly.
But the thing is, it already has to match exactly, because it can be spelled exactly correct, it can be capitalized exactly correct. That's what I kept going back and forth and looking at it, thinking it's right. I've spelled it right. I've capitalized it correctly. Until I finally figured out that it was just spaced differently.
Yeah, and Linda's saying that they've had the same problem in the office with Hub. If it's added a space or something like that, that space counts as a character, and it won't just bypass that character. And again, every now and again, you'll find something really weird when you go to enter an owner or a writer, and everything's on the last name. And so, I mean, it's basically, it's just putting in your own, it's the same thing we've always done with our own database. And if we have to put, you know, Chubby Turner in as Chubby Turner instead of Harold Turner because he doesn't like to be called Chubby, and unfortunately it's going to be Harold on one side and Chubby on the other. It's just, I don't know how to fix that, because that's a computer issue that it's got to open a door and close the door.
I wish it was one line, because like I said, I looked at her name as it was spelled in the hub, and I was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I spelled it exactly the same, capitalized it the same, and I did, and it still kept coming up wrong. And those little gray lines are so faint when I finally, and I'm old and I can't see like I used to, and when I finally figured out that that's like a break in the line, then I had to go back and change, you know, my database to match that one. And that might save somebody else a headache. I don't know. It sure gave me one for a while.
Well, so honestly, any part of that name, you can type in, any last name or any part of the name. You can type in the first name.
Kathy, I have the same way I do with ranch and incorporated and LLC.
There you go.
Sometimes a ranch is at the end, sometimes the ranch is.
Yeah, you can.
You know, brand is ranch, base, LLC. So I just have to hunt and peck.
Yeah, you got to kind of hunt and peck, but what they're saying is you come in with the same problem with ranch, with LLC, with incorporated. It depends on how the original was entered into the database. Was it entered as ranch as the last name or incorporated as the last name?
Right.
This is just a lot easier to look stuff up, because if you put ranch in there, it's going to give you everything with ranch in it, whether it's incorporated, whether it's LLC, whether it's management. J5 was one of the ones that was really hard to find for a while, because it was under management, it was under MHE and MG. I mean, I have J5 in my old database about 8 different times.
Right.
Well, so it's just, but the nice thing is say if I do that, and, okay, here it is. They entered J5 on the last name and nothing on the first name. Whereas in my old database, I would have put branch management as my last name and J5 course as my first.
Right.
When I go to compare that, that's exactly how I did it when I did it.
So if you hit change on that, will
If-
it change it to what?
It will change your database to what they have.
No, it will change nothing.
Oh, okay.
Unless, okay, if I hit change, the only reason I need to hit change is if I put in, you know, something. And then when I change it, it'll change my side. We are not changing hub side at all. I mean, no matter what I do, I can sit here and I can change this.
But that's what I'm saying, you can't.
No, I can change it to California and they're not gonna care.
We need a
The
button
hub
on
side to come in and change what you've done.
Yeah, on the little box that pops up, when you hit that compare, the little box pops up, it'd be nice to have a button that says change or, reset or something that would change it to what hub is.
Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
let me ask about that.
Wouldn't that be easy?
That's it.
You know, just to change to or update, whatever. So, yeah, that way we would match the hub. Yeah, and then we would-
Right. That's what I was
Okay.
trying to figure out before, and kind of what I was trying to point out before, that I had to go in and manually change my database to match everything that was in the hub, because you couldn't just click and update it or anything. And it was just because of my base.
You don't want to be messy. You want your membership data, And that should be what you want, not fiddling around with, you know, you need to go to NCHA to maybe find or update something, like your data, your members should be. Well, you go in there and you change what you need to, you typed it in and adjusted it according to.
Well, that's what I was saying. If you want to have Chubby Turner as Chubby Turner, not Harold Turner, then you can change it on your side of the database and it'll stick on that. But his NCHA number needs to stay the same.
If you have that word automatically changes, that's cool. However, they could have moved and they have new information that NCHA doesn't have.
Correct. If you're not careful and you just update us to what NCHA has, you may erase stuff that was new to you and NCHA doesn't have it yet. So I'll ask her about that and we'll see if we can get an extra little button put on there to make it easier.
It really helps the owner, 02s and 01s, because in our old database, we didn't have that on there. That didn't transfer over.
True.
So on.
Huh? The 01 and 02 did not,
Now, where does it show
Right there.
right down here at the bottom, NCHA number.
As you load all of your new people from the NCHA database, those will be on there.
Yeah.
Your old ones, I just went through and put mine on them as I came up on them, and now I have them all.
Yeah. 2-2s.
Yeah, 01s and the 22s.
It was just pretty simple to, if there was an update, but yeah, that you didn't have to. I almost thought it would have been easier if I would have wiped out my database and started fresh, because then you're adding everything exactly how it is with NCHA.
Okay. When you're doing, let's see, this was the Coyote Rock. Okay, so when you're doing an LAE, this is an example of, we hook these extra classes together. So when I was in my open class, there's all my open guys. Look at all these little flags. And after your class is closed, you can go on these guys and you can get a little wrench. And that little wrench, when you click on it, is going to allow you to make that change to the database. Say it wasn't Eric that rode the horse, or it wasn't Kazarian that owned the horse. And you can make these changes right here. It was already asked if we could maybe get that little wrench to come up before the draw so that we can make the changes simpler, and we'll ask and find out on that. If you click on the little orange bubble, it's going to tell you this horse has an invalid registration number and the horse not found. So probably if I go into my Coyote Royal Cat. And then when I go down here, this is what I have in my database. And then as soon as I type in that horse, he's not in there, so he hasn't won any money. If he had won money, he would be in there. He hasn't won any money. So you can go back and forth, do a little bit of, again, I didn't have the horse's papers in there. I'm showing all my bad stuff now.
Okay, you're making me feel better about myself.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. Okay, so as soon as we close those classes, when they go to the next go around or the final, they come apart again. And so if you're going to put them back together, you have to put them back together in each go around, which like this one, my 100,000, I forgot to put it together when I did my open derby. So it's down here somewhere and you got to go find it. And then you just score it separately like we used to. And let's see, what else do I need? The
Numbers out there to the right are blank.
Yep, the numbers off to the right are a quick glance at the entries that we've done. The status, it shows you this class has already been closed. This one's open for entries down here at the bottom. Once we get through our show, and you look over here on the side, if it's complete, once your show's complete and your classes are closed and you don't have anything open, you get this little deal that says send results to NCHA. And when we click on that, they just go straight to NCHA. There's no more loading it up to anything. It just goes straight in. This show's in progress right now, so it's not going to let me do anything. But right there, I can sure click and send that in, which I don't want to because all I did is I fixed the class and yeah, oopsie. I fixed the class and it reopened the deal, so that's going to sit out there forever, ready to go back to NCHA. When you first get your database and you first renew it every year, it's going to charge you $750 in order to renew it. But say your first show, you only had 300, it's going to charge you $1 per entry until you reach $750. So if you run a show or you've got a tiny affiliate and you only have 350 works for the year, you only pay $350. Okay, so if I have this tiny show, I have 300 works, I press my button and what it does is it brings up a little window where I can put a check into it, and then it takes my check and then it sits there and it waits. And if I run another show, then my next show it's going to tack on until I reach $750 and then I'm paid up. Now I can run as many classes as I want to or as many entries. But for every entry until you reach that $750, it just charges you $1 at a time until you get there. So it may take you, I don't know, a couple of months before you get your $750 paid. And but that way, that's kind of nice that somebody that is not running a bunch of classes. But
I was just concerned about the end results that NCHA again.
Mhm.
What happens if we accidentally do that?
What happens, Linda?
If we have not processed, that can cause a big problem.
Since this one was closed and I just had a fix on it, does that matter?
I don't know, because every time you hit send, it goes to our system. But it's sitting out there on the cloud. We have to go into it to open the show up. That's why we tell secretaries that possibly have let the flags out, don't ever upload the show again. You can upload that special flag, but you cannot upload it. If you've already uploaded the show, do not upload it again, because then everyone has to get involved, because we can't do anything, because if we open up both of those, it just throws them all, it just throws them all together.
Okay, so that's something that we need to ask her, that if we have to go in and reopen a show, that needs to stay deactivated
Yes.
so that we don't accidentally send it on. 'Cause I guarantee you, I'm gonna click on this sucker at one time or another. It's gonna happen. And don't worry, you guys, it'll happen to me first.
Can you please condense that again, because I could barely hear her?
Do what?
Can you please repeat that? Just condense it again, because I couldn't hear all of what she was saying.
Okay, she was asking over here when I had reopened the show in order to correct the class for Linda. And when I reopened it, it reopened the send results to NCHA. And Linda said, don't dare send them in after we've already uploaded them one time.
Right.
So,
Okay.
we're gonna ask Marilyn if she can deactivate this. Once we send it to NCHA, that it won't let us resend it,
Gotcha.
correct? Yeah.
So we just sent the class and you just sent the paper.
Yeah, I did it, when I did my correction, I just sent in, I PDF'd a copy of it and sent it to her email. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah. She didn't want the whole show.
So, like, send it over, but now the class, shows all the seniors.
Yeah.
I'm trying to watch my notes to make sure he doesn't.
Okay.
Is there a way to take the senior class there?
We've got that on the list as well. And the question was for you guys out away from Fort Worth, is there any way to keep the subclasses from adding to the bottom total of your classes, which is the Senior World Tour and stuff like that? So, and that's already on Marilyn's list of, can we fix it? Not sure. So,
So that we're not
Cheryl?
paying for that twice? Is that what you're saying?
paying for, do what?
The class within a class, is that what you're talking about?
No, the question was, she was trying to keep track of how many runs or how many actual runs had been made so that her judge doesn't go over 150.
Gotcha.
But with the Senior World Tour in there, it was kind of messing up her count.
Gotcha.
And for people that have a lot of Senior World Tour, that could mess it up. If you look at ours, it's like we just take 5 away from the bottom.
Right.
So, but we are, she has that on her list as far as trying to delegate the difference between a subclass and the actual class.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Making corrections, printing. Okay, what else do we need here? Reviewing the checkbook, huh? Okay, so the checkbook is a little more complicated than it used to be. Or well, let's see. Yeah, when you're done with your show, whoops, get back up here, and you can go to your summary sheet. And the summary sheet is going to kind of tell you everything that happened with that class or with that particular show. It's going to give you your added money, your entry fees, your NCHA deduction. It's going to give you just a great big old balance sheet, spreadsheet kind of deal. And get down to the bottom. I don't know, that 323 entries is a little goofy. Don't know where that came from.
It is counting the gilding and all those.
No, because there's not 323 entries on that. So I'm not sure where that works number came from. It's pulling from a different place. This summary isn't all telling. It just, I don't know. Have you had good luck with it?
My numbers have always matched on mine.
Has it? Okay. Okay. So, okay. So when we get down to our reports and stuff, you're going to see this little button over here that says export. Okay. And our export button, we don't have the clean PDF that we used to have. And that's coming, but it's a ways off. So what we do have is the simplified version is it'll go to Google Sheets. If you just go anywhere within, you can copy and paste it, but if you just go anywhere in here, left click, it's going to highlight everything. And then you can, whatever you do to copy it, which is Control C on a regular one. And then you go to Google Sheets. And it's going to open up the Google Sheet. Open up a blank one. Wait for it to quit working and loading. And you go to the top left-hand corner, which is already highlighted, and paste it. Control V, it takes it a minute because it's going to put everything in there. And now you have everything on that spreadsheet that you would like to have. Okay?
Yeah.
I'm not having good luck manipulating things in Google Sheets. So what I do is you go up to this top left-hand corner with nothing in it, click on it, it highlights your entire sheet, copy it, open up a regular Excel spreadsheet, paste it, and there it is. So then you can take this sheet and you can manipulate it however you want to manipulate it in order.
From Google Sheets to Excel. I'm hard on Google.
Right, you mean from Google Sheets? Right here. In the top left-hand corner, there's a little empty box over there. And anytime you go over here, you're going to highlight the entire sheet. Click anywhere else, you deselect it, but you click in this little corner and it selects your entire sheet. Now, if you just hit Control C, you've copied your entire sheet. And that works on Google Sheets, it works on Excel. Absolutely. Okay. So, and actually, see, this was just one show, but if you want to just do the weekend show and go to your summary.
So you gotta check it. You have to do it through checkbook.
Yeah, go through checkbook to do that. So when we go to our checkbook, and it's going to show me all my classes, or I want to do just the weekend, then you hit Control and click on whatever other ones you want, and it's going to give me those three, and then it gives you the opportunity of having whatever dates. And I want all those dates because I don't remember which days these guys were on. So if I hit Shift and click it, it's going to highlight everything. Okay, and then as I added all that stuff, it just started adding everything down below. And now this is the regular balance sheet that you guys are used to seeing. It's just in a little different form right now. You can look on this, which is really cool. So my alfalfa hay, if I look on the little eye right here, it's going to give me a list of everybody that paid for alfalfa hay. Okay. Pardon me? Okay. There is a way to do that. I mean, it's
Same way you did that. The other thing I've done is taken a screenshot.
you can do a screenshot of it if you're, it won't go right to Excel just because it's going from the cloud and it has to go into a cloud-based program. And so that kind of, yeah.
So it was a standing, right?
Correct. And then you can go. Okay, so I have that. Now, how do I get all my?
Hey, is there any way that when somebody says something that's in the room that you could repeat it so the people on the phone here can hear it?
Absolutely. How do I get those guys to list?
Just keep scrolling down.
Just keep scrolling down. I don't know.
No, on your Excel.
Yeah, I was on the Excel. Okay, this one,
Just keep scrolling.
and it's not there.
It's up there.
No, I wanted my entire balance sheet. Oh, you know what? Okay, whoops.
Is there another page that have to, I have?
Is there another page? No? Okay, so we're just basically looking for,
I know what you're saying.
copy. And over here, and we want, okay, now we have the entire, but it doesn't tell me who paid for, oh, there it does. Okay, yeah, you just keep scrolling down, and that's the major checkbook that we had before. And that's the same report you guys are used to seeing. So banquet tickets, these are the people that paid for them. Nice thing is it breaks it up a little bit more because it tells you that they had 4 of them at $50. So you can kind of go through there, but that's everybody's. And so that was from the checkbook. And then again, all we did is hit the export. And when it comes up, then you just copy and paste it into Google Sheets. And then again, you can copy and paste that over into an Excel spreadsheet. Yeah. Anybody have any questions on that, or is it?
Yeah, I was wondering, is there any way that we could get that summary to move over into the Excel as well?
Okay.
When if you the summary, if you'll get out of this box, right behind that, see that payment summary and how it breaks it all down? Yes. Is there any way to have them where they move that when we do the copy, when we export, that we can get that summary moved over in our Excel spreadsheet? Because that's a real useful little tool there, that payment summary.
Just this little one right here.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
Since it's not there, have you used your snippet tool before?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Little scissors? And basically that's what I would do. It'd just be to any of this stuff that I kind of want that I can't get, I'll just snip it, open up a Word document. And then paste it on there and you got it.
Okay.
As far as it appearing, I mean, yeah, it doesn't show. Okay.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was a way to just have that added into the export.
So the payment summary, okay. Let me see if we can get that, if we can get that, report.
And on the small items there where you can just quickly take a screenshot, and in that box.
Okay, small eyes where they can open it and the box doesn't open anymore.
Right.
Got it. Okay.
How do you do a screenshot?
Well, you can do a screenshot either, what is it, control and print screen over here. Or if you go down, if you have a Windows machine, and you go down to the bottom down here, click on that, type in snippet. Snipping tool thing comes up, and right click on that and tell it to pin it to your start or pin it to your taskbar. Mine is pinned to my taskbar right down here. It's a handy dandy little booger.
Just do right click on the box and it'll be come up as an option.
You can take a screenshot of that right there. Yeah. Click and drag the selection that you want. Copy it or download it. Okay, if we copy it, break open our,
Just put on the.
there you go. You can do it that way too. Yeah, we just need to get the window bigger, so. Okay, window. expand.
Dragged it, what did you do? Copy and paste it?
I copy and pasted it. I just opened a Word document and pasted it right in there. Expand window expand and checkbook details. Okay. Okay. What's that?
Oh, when you, after you export it into your Google Sheet, it gives you all that broke down information way on down on that page.
Correct.
You can always just copy and highlight the explanation part and print it over, or copy it over to another Excel sheet.
Okay, what Karen's saying is, uh-oh, I got rid of my Google Sheets already, sorry, is when you go to Google Sheets and you move that over, so let's go back real quick. My checkbook. It went away. Sorry.
How did you select all, sorry?
You just go anywhere in all the words and just left click it and it'll highlight everything. And then you just go to Google Sheets. Come on, open it. Control V. Oh, check it out. Oops. Okay. So what she's saying is when if you didn't want to do a screenshot of that window, you can just go to your Google Sheet, go down to that part, and then you can highlight all that, copy it, and paste it over to a document too. So there's a little more work as far as getting your results or getting your balance sheets and stuff. But as far as running the show, it's a lot easier.
Can you just tell me a little check? If you hand out somebody that lists the check and they, not the amount that they wrote the check for, but that was on the, when you net somebody out
Oh yeah, they'll
on your list of checks.
do dumb things.
When you net somebody out and then they write a check for, their bill says 300 and they write a check for 200 or for whatever reason. And then when you do the list of checks, it doesn't bring the amount up that they wrote the check on it. It brings the amount up that.
Oh, when you take
I
the
didn't
winnings
notice
out of
that.
their check?
The treasurer will put
I don't ever take
Put
the
it
winnings out of
Yeah.
their check.
Okay, she's talking about when you net checks, it'll come up, if you look at the checks list, it doesn't come out as the amount that you netted it, it comes out the amount it was supposed to be. Okay, so one of the other things in the checkbook is if you highlight it, this little refresh button over here, if you click on that button one time, it changes to list checks. And then when you go into list the checks, it's going to tell you your checks received, cash received, cards received, and your checks received. And then you can print it. She does not have the names associated with these right now, but that is in the works. Okay? Because this doesn't do us much good with just the name or with the date and then the check number and the amount. Okay, that is. So to go to, we go to, and here, you see this refresh button? Okay, once you hit the refresh button, it turns into list checks button. It's hidden. So then when you hit your list checks, it's going to show you everything associated with that show. Yeah. Okay, but it's kind of hidden for right now.
I accidentally.
Yeah.
You did? I had never found.
Okay. What else is there, Cheryl, that we've missed? Okay.
I do very few shows, I do pretty good to this point, and then I panic when it says I was to find out, what if I could print send to NCHA, or do we no longer have to send it?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me exactly, tell me the 3 or 4 steps I take to do, because I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have no clue where to go.
Okay. So once you're done with your show, you're gonna go right up here, it's gonna print your national championship fee paper. And that's that handy one that you've always seen. Okay?
Yep.
And then right underneath that, you're gonna print your show results. Oops, that's the one, not that one, excuse me. You wanna go to show summary.
Not show results?
No, show results is just gonna, yeah, show summary is gonna give you the regular NCHA paper. Okay?
Show summary.
So,
Yeah, you have to be in a class to be able to get the.
oh, okay, so once you're done with your open class and you go to print,
Well, then in class.
yeah, you're gonna do your NCHA results form. There's 2 results. The class results doesn't really, it just shows you the results of that. That's not Linda. Linda doesn't like that one. Yeah, it goes in the binder nicely. This one, you go to NCHA results form. So that's gonna give you that super duper one where you're gonna be able to, and this is the nice thing is you can look down this right now and you can see I've got all my horses' ID numbers. I've got all my people ID numbers in there. Everything looks pretty cool. So it's,
The results form is.
yes, yes,
So I need that and the show summary and the NCF. And in the show summary, is that where I see the 8% on that? Yes. That's all I need?
Yeah. And so if you look at this, you can, and if you have a 0 or something like that, or you don't have an ID number to go with a, you can go in there and you can change it. You don't have to print 18 pages and figure out that.
You can change it right here?
No, you can take that person's name. Right.
I see it.
And if you're gonna fix it, you're gonna have to go back up into membership and that person and change it.
So every class has to be.
Right. Okay. Circuit awards you do from right here too, and you pull them up, and it's gonna all you do is you find out classes or what shows you want to detail, just like we used to do. Click OK, and it's gonna give you same thing either on earnings, points, or scores. Did I go? That was under the print button, right where your show summary was, and then there's your circuit award. Yippee. Okay.
How do you send, what do y'all do to get your, standings, your semi-annual, and work up there?
It's
Okay.
not in a class.
Can we send that?
Yeah, you
That-
gotta get out. You gotta get out of here.
You gotta go to the semi.
Kathy, can
Yeah.
you hear me? If you go to show applications, go to show applications, then come back to show, just to the shows. Don't click on a show. Now go to print. Click on shows. Now click on the show. Now go to print, and that gives you all those, your old year-to-date standings, your semi-annual. That's where you find all that. But you have to go refresh it by show application, then back to show. But don't click on a show. Just go to the print, and it will give you all that information.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. Delete them? They just don't come up. So
I get your limited age, I get your approved classes and all that, and I don't want that, so I have to go through and manually fix every.
Seems like you select which one.
No, no.
it sends everything.
Yeah.
I have to manually go through.
That's, yeah.
We
Okay.
send that.
So Linda's talking right now. She's saying that when we send in our semi-annual report, we end up sending everything to her, and she's kind of not wanting everything. So,
Yeah, we don't have a way of just picking a class.
correct.
From that share board file.
So, but that's a good thing to know is you can go back in and you can choose something, and that changes what you're going to see once you're in that show. And like Catherine said, you go back to show applications, then go back to your show, and your list is different until you choose a show. So you got to kind of explore around a little bit and see what secret menus you might find. And,
There are.
yeah, and then refresh. Something else that we talked about in here was not to be in a class or not to be in a settlement when other people are in there. So if you have somebody working on your practice pen or somebody checking out or something like that, never leave a window open. If you're inside of a class and I'm in this open class and somebody else is starting to do something with it, I'm not going to see what they've changed. I'm not going to see what their charges were. So if I've got other people working in my database with me, I'm going to go in, I'm going to sign up my horse, I'm going to make my changes, I'm going to get out. And I can sit right here and be real safe on the top of this show as opposed to being inside the show. Because the computer has to open doors and close doors. And if you have too many people trying to get into the same door, it's going to get bogged down and messed up.
So, sometimes you had any problem with that when, Tom was putting your scores in?
No, I didn't either. When, the only thing was that in the very beginning, I think we might have had a few problems with, and I think it happened didn't it happen to you, Kathy, when you guys were doing that show with Arizona? She was drawn, you were drawn, and.
She was drawn and,
Yeah. So just,
remember.
if somebody's gonna help you, you say, this is your job, and this is your job, this is your job.
Right.
And you do my job, and I'm not gonna be yours. It's just like Kathy said, you open that door, and two of you are in there, well, it doesn't know which one to listen to. So.
That's a nice way to
Make
put it.
sure you do that if you've got people else. No, I had no, and when I had Tom doing that for me, and you're talking about an age demand where we were using that to put the scores right into the age demand, so I didn't have to, I was doing so many other things. And I gave him access only to that. So he puts the scores right in for me, my 5 scores. But no, we never had to cover all of it.
That was a nice piece of advice. I think it really frees you up.
Yeah, they're talking about right now allowing other people to do stuff in your database, and Cheryl had let Tom put in scores right from the announcer stand, and then she just verified them before she closed the class. So the possibilities are endless as far as how many people you can allow into your database. Just make sure that you don't allow people into your, where they can draw a class or score a class unless you really want them in there. Because we don't need people out at the practice pen being able to touch your classes and do a redraw or anything like that. Okay, we've been on here for a while. Does anybody have any other questions? Really? No. If the question was, if you have a class that didn't make, do you still have to go in, add somebody, and then kill it? Is no. It'll just sit there. It sits
The
there
only
very
time,
flat.
Kathy, this is Catherine, the only time you have to go in is if you've linked a class and then you have no entries in that linked class. It won't let you print a result until you go into the linked class and unlink it. And then it'll let you do a summary. I don't know if you've got one of those you can open up.
I've got this one right here that's open for entries, but it's actually, as you take people out of it, come on. Okay. Building. Take this guy out.
There was just a time when I couldn't print the summary because I had linked a class that didn't have entries. So I just closed it like you did.
That's kind of a troubleshooting deal as far as you're going to find that every now and again it'll jump up and it say it's not ready to go anywhere, and you're thinking everything is closed, it's done, it's done, it's done. And what you're going to find is something like Catherine said, where you had somebody linked to a class, you got everybody out of it, and now it's still there. So this class is open for entries, but when you go back and look at it, it says it's complete because there's no entries in that class. And it'll kind of jump back and forth. It'll say it's in progress, and then it'll say complete, unless you have somebody entering up and, but if you don't have anybody entered in any more classes, it's just, they'll go away. So, yes, ma'am.
I don't know how to get draws and download to print to send to Facebook or a website, so it's very timely. Like, all I can do is take a picture and
I scan mine and make it a JPEG.
Okay, so the question was, is how you get your draws to where you can send them to, see, this is,
very easy way I just find.
I don't have, oh, well, what the heck.
So you just scan them
I didn't hear the question. What was it?
They're talking about how to get a draw up to, Facebook or something like that. It's gotta be a JPEG to get on Facebook, right? It can't, which is a picture.
Well, that Arizona has a website.
Yeah, and we put it up on a PDF.
Yes, I do that too.
What I do, I save it as a PDF and then you.
Yes, but that's part of the website, that's one of the websites. Big Sky did their website, they did our website, so that's part of that. What I can upload the results of the draw. I scan it and my printer gives me an option to do it as a PDF or a JPEG. I save it as a JPEG and upload it on Facebook on my desktop instead of taking a picture.
I think if you want to pay for Adobe also, you can,
Yeah, it'll change it.
you can change it to a JPEG.
Yeah.
But you did have to pay for that. Adobe, it's like Adobe Pro.
Okay, so there's your draw sheet. You can print it to a PDF.
And now we draw to Excel. And you can make it.
Huh?
Part of the website, and then there's a very.
I can print to an Adobe PDF, to an image. No, I don't. Does anybody else know is there a way to print to an image or,
I haven't found one.
yeah. I mean, the only way I know is to make it a PDF, and then if you could take it into Adobe, and Adobe will create it into a JPEG for you. Or, you know, one of my favorites that I tend to do too is on my confirmations, I'll take a picture of it with my phone and send it to my announcer. And I think you can put it up on Facebook that way. Sure. You can.
Oh.
Take a picture of the phone.
That snippet tool is a JPEG.
Yeah, the snippet tool.
There you go. Okay, if you wanted to do that. So you've got your draw sheet sitting up here, and if I use my snippet tool, and I go to new, and then I can, you know, however much you want to do, and then it asks you up here if you want to save it, and I want to save it, and it saves that as a JPEG.
Oh.
So then I have my open draw, and there it is. You can put it on Facebook just like that. Okay, so you have snippet. If you have Windows, you go down here to your Windows square, where it says type in search, type in snippet, snipping tool, little scissors come up, and then just right click on it and tell it to save it to your desktop or down to your tray right down here. Okay, so there it is. I open it up, I ask for a new one, and you use your little crosshairs, you make it, and then when you save it, save it as, and it goes as a JPEG.
Yeah, I can email it.
Yep, you can email it too if you wanted to. So that's a kind of a quick and dirty little method. That's cool. I can't hardly show you, Teresa, I don't think. On the limited age event, one of the nice things that she has done now, you can't see it until, yeah, you can't see it until you draw it. But you have the draw sheet, and then right underneath it, it says draw sheet to Excel. And so you just click on that, and it sends it right to Excel. and you can manipulate your draw sheets however you want to. Okay, so
Well, that's only,
that's only in aged events, yeah, and in the weekends it's not there. Now, this is what I was talking about before. Like my show coming up is a leveling show, and I've got 54 classes in that show. Yippee!
They're not a limit anymore. One time there was a
On how many classes? She says it's unlimited right now, which is good because once I get to the fraternity, I'll have 64 classes.
And that's what there's where I was saying,
Okay.
different colors.
Well, different colors.
Inches or
She's kind of working on either bolding the main class or coloring it or something. They're kind of working on that. But what you can do over here, which is really important, because when you bring your classes over in the aged event, they come over kind of hairy, scary, however you put them into your application. And then however, once you put them into that application, then they're kind of in your thing forever, and they come across all hairy, scary. You can reorder this to put it, what I did is I took all my classes and I put them on a piece of paper, and then I numbered them the way I wanted to, and then I went into each one of these guys and I just renumbered it so that all of my open derby was together. And then when it disconnects and it goes to the next round, all of my open derby stuff is still together. And then when I get to the finals and I can't see anymore, all of my open derby stuff is still together. So this little deal to renumber it is really nice when you get going on your aged events. And that's just put your subclasses underneath the classes that they belong to. So that
So leveling really is based class by class. You know, am I to understand that or?
leveling is, I'm a big advocate of leveling, so if anybody.
So I'm doing like 6 AM class at the intermediate and the beginning.
Okay. So you're gonna have your open, and then you'll have your intermediate and your limited. Okay. And on your aged event, most everybody's gonna have a subclass or two underneath that. You're gonna have a gelding and maybe a novice.
Yep.
And so you have your open, gelding novice, that's 3. Intermediate, gelding novice, that's 6. Limited, intermediate, and gelding novice, that's 9. So you have 9 in class. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is when I get started, I'm gonna hook these guys up. Oops.
So, because it's a one go, they ride once and that score's gonna count for everything that they've entered, right?
Well, this one's gonna,
Premier shows, not weekend based.
yeah, this one's gonna be 2 goes and a final. And we're doing kind of a wonky thing where our main class is 2 go rounds and a finals. Our limited is going within the first go, and the intermediate is going within the second go.
So are you linking it up on the second go then?
On the second go, I have not, once you finish your first go, it all comes undone. Then you'll,
So you can
yes,
look at-
Catherine, you caught it, is I've got my open and I've got my open limited, but you don't see my intermediate here. It's because when I put on my application, I put my intermediate in my second go around only. So that way I don't have to make up weird numbers for my first go around in order to make it go to the second go around. And
Right.
then when I get ready to hook it all up, everybody that matches is gonna hook up together. And then everybody that I need to add in will just be added into the intermediate.
Seems like I made a mistake of looking up the second go or something and that was wrong. Did you know? You don't connect them until you are in that go.
You don't connect them until you're in the go, correct? Because, yeah.
That was bad.
So there's that first Derby open, and so when I go to sign somebody up in this, and I'm at a loss here. Go with Charlie.
it was already, you're in the middle. And
That's fine,
probably-
maybe what?
Okay, so now it's gonna give me all of the classes that are gonna be linked within that. So if he wants to go, okay, so he's gonna be in the open gelding, and he's gonna be in the open novice, and then he wants to have a second run, but so once I click that guy and I say that he's gonna show twice, it put the 2 over here. So now he's gonna get to go twice in this deal.
Yeah.
And so when I sign him up, read my computer out. Okay, and he shows up twice in the class, and the X means that he's in the main class, and that since there's nothing here, it means he's in one of those subclasses. And then you would go through and find the subclass. And the fact that he's got a 2 right here tells you that he's gonna ride to the herd twice in this thing. So he'll be drawn in twice. If it was a combo class, he would only be drawn in one time. That he would not be there because he would only be riding to the herd one time. So the leveling sounds kind of complicated, but actually once you get into it, it's not at all. Once you get your classes together, you get them hooked together, and then you get people entered in them.
But if they want to add a gilding, Kathy, if they want to add the gilding, do you have to go back all the way out on everything to add the gilding?
Yeah, that's a little bit of a sticky up.
Okay, so that's still a sticky.
As Marilyn said, you kind of want to have all your stuff ready as a brick to go in. So you want to have your gilding, your novices, your intermediates. You want to have those guys all in there at one time. And if not, I think what I'm going to have to do is if I have gildings enter after the draw, is just keep track of them, and then when my classes break apart, I'll add them into that class and score it.
Because you have to pull them out of every class they were in if you were going to be back in, type of thing.
Correct. Yeah, if he was entered in absolutely everything after the draw, I'm going to have to X him out of every class, which means go into each one of them and pull him out, and then put him back in and make him an A draw, so to speak.
Well, and if you need to change, if you put a number in that's like not existent in the draw, because you pulled him out, it will go back without an A draw in that spot. That's how if you change your rider.
So if I change something, take him out, then when you put him back in and you use that same number in his draw, it will not come up as an A draw, correct?
Right. Only on the last horse. I mean, only like the last of the set.
The last horse will always come up as an A draw because it just won't give him a new number, which is opposite of what our old system used to be, because the last horse used to have a new number. So, but like I said, it looks a little complicated, but once you get all your horses in there and you kind of go through all the tip-tap steps, it's not at all. Leveling is you're running all the classes together, you're running all the open classes together, and then they separate off into their own final. Leveling is adding levels to where you have a protected level that your lower or beginner riders can be in, and nobody else can get in there, and they have a chance to win money. And the intermediate same way. So it's kind of a bell curve when you look at it. Our first show in Tulare, we had a big bell curve as far as the open riders. There weren't as many. There was a bunch more intermediate, and then there wasn't as many limited riders. But what it did do is we saw limited riders, the majority of them I haven't seen at our shows before. I mean, they were coming out of the woodwork because they had a place to win money. It was good. So, well, guys, if anybody doesn't have any more questions, I think we'll call it a good. Oh, no, there was another thing. If we're going to try to be a little more accessible here, and Marilyn's a little overpowered right now, so we're gonna open up a web page. If you go on to Cutter Notes and then scroll down to the very bottom where it says Show Secretary and click on Show Secretary, and it's going to ask you for a password just so that not everybody can get in there. Password is Wonder Woman. Because we are. Hit enter. No, I don't want to save it. And it's going to take you to this page where I'm going to start adding little things in here. These are off of that survey that we took. One lady said that she didn't have the Firefox browser. So this is just a little printable deal on how to download that Firefox browser. Okay. This one is how to open the program and create a show that we just went through. and you can look through there and scroll through there. So, and then this right here, if there's something that you guys want to see that you don't know about doing, click on that, send me a note, and I will try to make a little tutorial and stick it up on the website so you can look at it. I'll start putting more stuff up here. There are videos of help videos on the Faster Cut program, but sometimes if you can't, if you don't have Flash Player or you don't have enough internet, wow, you might need something that's just more printable that you want to look at, or maybe print it out and look at it and read it for bedtime or something like that. Okay, so we'll try this. The other thing is we mentioned that it's hard to get a hold of Marilyn sometimes, and with the cloud, there's like a couple of little secret buttons on there, or when you get super duper tired and you just can't quite think straight. I'm available, Cheryl's available, and Catherine Webb, I'm throwing you under the bus. Catherine's usually available too.
I am.
So you can pull our name, you can pull our phone numbers off the NCHA site. If it's not a big 911 that the hardware fell out of the sky or something like that, give us a call and we can maybe help you walk through it. You know, Cheryl helped me when I was super duper tired and I couldn't get the scores into my class. Well, the problem was I hadn't drawn the class, so I couldn't put the scores in. But I was so tired, I didn't realize what had happened. So I think if we do a little bit of a phone tree, it might help everybody. And if not, the nice thing about the cloud is if you're in it, you have a problem, you can add me as a user or Cheryl as a user, and Catherine as a user, and then we can jump right onto your system and see what's going on and maybe fix your problem or tell you that you need to call Marilyn as a last resort. So hopefully that will help. Yeah, hopefully both of those will help. And like I said, if you see something on the web and that you would like to see a little tutorial or a quick and dirty deal, let me know, and I'll see if I can get it up as soon as possible. Anybody else got any questions, or are you good?
Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, Miss Catherine. All right, guys, thanks so much for being on with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
now.
Turn it on.
I don't know.
I still hear you.
I know, I'm not sure how to turn it. I'm not sure how to turn you off.
Turn me off, turn me off.
Oh dear, in meeting, got it. Okay.